Today, we will be discussing the transformative trends of 2024, tech, culture, wellness, and fashion through an astrological lens.
Welcome to Radiant Genius Podcast. I'm Elsa Mehary, a creative strategist and feminine entrepreneur. Join me and the occasional guest where we will illuminate the path to brilliance in wellness, tech, and business trends. I will be guiding you through the journey of your inner genius to transform you into your most brilliant and badass self. Give yourself permission to live out loud at the brightest level.
Hi, welcome to Radiant Genius Podcast. I'm Elsa Mehary, creative strategist, entrepreneur, and your host for today's episode. So this will be a two-part series. The first part, I will be discussing the trends that we've just lived through 2024. And part two will be some predictions of what's coming up in 2025 that I think, based on so many things, a lot of it's going to be intuitive for me. So if anyone follows astrology and the IG and social media girlies, this whole year have been talking about Pluto leaving Capricorn, going into Aquarius for the next 20 years. And what does this all mean? And so two important things. Pluto is the planet of death, rebirth, and transformation. And so whatever sign it's in will have that energy. So Aquarius, they're pretty cutting edge, they're innovative, they're a little quirky, maybe like very different. Usually they're ahead of the curve, if not in appearance, in thinking, and just always trying new things. And so that's going to be the energy that shifts our next lifetime generation. And so I want to talk a little bit about like, what does this mean, or what could this possibly, if we want to think about how it's touched the previous generations. I'm going to go all the way back to Pluto and Libra and just cycle through all the signs because they go in order. Pluto and Libra, this was a transformation of relationships. This is when we saw divorce really happening en masse for the first time. And really laws that would support this transformation for women and allow women to get divorced and live independently, which wasn't possible before, which is why really and truly your grandma was still married, because it wasn't possible for her to live alone. Financially, women could only have a bank account for the first time in 1974, for the first time have a mortgage on their own home. Like all of these things were not possible before. So this really allowed divorce to be more effective in a way. Next up, Scorpio. So Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. And so you just had double transformation. But we also had, this is the era of sexual revolution, real like levels of freedom and everything taboo coming out into the open. And again, good, the bad, the ugly with all of these. And so along with that came the flip side of that, which is like STDs. Pluto and Sagittarius, that's when we saw the rise of celebrities. And that continued really, I think, but again, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it went into this overboard realm. So Pluto and Sag, I was working at that time during that transformation at InStyle. So I feel like I was part of the collective group that really elevated the celebrity. And you got the behind the scenes of how they live, what they do. And then the good, the bad, and the ugly of that is people wanting to emulate, which steps us right into Capricorn. And this is the showing off of your wealth through material things. But that's also a lot of structure, a lot of rules, establishment, level of stability, but also this very difficult, unmovable energy. And this is a time of you needed to prove, you needed a PhD, you needed a certificate, you needed all of these things, you needed a title. You needed a level of qualification to really be out there. And we can see how that's shifted now. You can you make up your own title. And if you're skilled, like do you basically, which is for me, I think it's welcome because it's very limiting. So now we are in a whole new space, but let's just look back at like how Capricorn really this past year the culmination of that energy. And so anytime you're changing and shifting, which why this year was really so pivotal, because we're moving from we were like wrapping up that whole Capricorn energy and moving into this Aquarius energy. And a lot of people didn't really want that change, right? Because it benefited a lot of people, that structure, the wealth being kept in a few hands. That's all going to be shifting. And so right before everything changes, though, you get a little bit of inkling of like what's coming up. So this past year, AI was big, AI, tech, everything. We saw everything was like, get a tech job, get a tech job. And I mean, that's shifting now where like a lot of those jobs are not available or they were overemphasized. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. But we saw last year integration of AI into everything. So if you use any tools for work like Canva or Notion or Adobe, Kajabi, Slack, pretty much I think everyone uses Slack if you have an office job, Zoom, Keynote, any of these things, AI is layered into everything. And that's just going to increase. Who remembers a QR code that came out a little ahead of its time? And then during COVID, like the restaurants were like, okay, what can we do? So a lot of the innovation that was early is now going to be really in full use. And with the energy of Aquarius, we're going to see how it's really going to go forward in a big way. So get ready. AI was really used in research and development, medical professions. We saw this. This is just going to really get better. So it just started off where using it for speed, like medical research, market research, and the effects of this were they were creating products faster without really fully testing them. But because they were able to research how to get it created or what was needed, they sort of just put it out there. And we're going to see the effects of that, like the robots, Tesla robots being out there, or even those Tesla cars. I don't know what they're called, but the ones that look like boxes, how they're super not safe. But again, this is just the effects of producing and lowering the standards and just having products on the market that maybe shouldn't be on the market. And we're all going to suffer the effects of that. The government, I think, hasn't caught up to what's happening. There's no regulation for a lot of these. Well, I'm thinking they could regulate, but perhaps they're being paid not to regulate. That's a possibility. I think that's quite high possibility. But there's been a shift also in Google being the top search engine. People are turning to TikTok. I call it TikTok University. I've learned so much on TikTok. I literally love it. It's allegedly going to be banned in 2025. I hope not. I think that's when really and truly the revolution is going to happen. The young people are going to be like, absolutely not. We're shutting it all down. Because so many people it's almost like therapy. TikTok is, and I know probably my generation, people are still TikTok shy because they feel like, oh, I have to create. You don't have to create. You can go on there and live your best life. You can just learn everything you need to learn. You can see all these things, but it's literally like, it's a casual space where all the other social media spaces are not casual, right? Like LinkedIn, you have to be suit and tie. You have to be like, this is my latest achievement. Instagram, there's still a level of curation for the algorithm, and TikTok, not regulated by the US. Yay. Is very different space. And so people are really like, this is it. And so if it doesn't get banned, I think that is going to kind of knock out Google in a way, because the level of learning and also AI, like I get a lot of nuanced information from ChatGPT. They're custom GPTs that you can use as well if you have the paid version. So that's a trend. It's like how we get our information is really shifting a lot, and it's just going to continue. And I know there's like a layering on Google. They've layered AI in your Google search, but I don't really explore that because I'm just in other realms. Moving on to fashion. So I add this category because that's my world. I'm a style person. I really, I love beauty. I love the expression of it. it's been a sad space. I live in New York City. I don't see a lot of creative expression in dressing. And I think this is just the collective mood. People want comfort. People want ease. Life is so very difficult now. And then when I say collective, I'm not talking about the 1%. The 1%, I'm sure they're wearing a different outfit, throwing it out every day. I don't really know. I'm not friends with those people, but I would say that collectively, people are very conservative in dress. Color choices, they don't want to draw a lot of attention to themselves. They want to almost blend, if you will, and blend in the way of saying, I'm also doing well in that way. Like you not drawing attention to yourself is saying, I'm able to, even if I'm having a mental breakdown, like I'm going to appear to be like everyone else and whatever that means. And so Secession came in and was giving quite luxury. And so if that means like the signaling of I have a lot of money or I'm doing well or whatever it is. So it's a lot of navy blue, a lot of beige, a lot of comfort dressing. And I mean, to be quite honest, like I'm a bright color person, but I've been going to the gym to regulate my emotions and like keep in shape since I don't have to walk to an office through the city, risking my life. I'm comfort dressing, right? I'm wearing a lot of neutral colors and it doesn't overstimulate me. And I think that's also the key, like things that don't overstimulate. And so the conservative is in alignment with the mood of the country politically. So everything is just, it's following. It's like this whole thing that we're swept up into. But that being said, the pendulum always swings in the opposite direction. So we're going to be seeing more color probably next year when Aquarius is like, I'm bored. Let's blue hair this. What are we going to do? So it's going to shift. We're going to see that, which I'll talk about more in part 2. Also, I want to say we don't have magazines to gatekeep and direct trends. No one looks to what's the monthly this, what's coming out. There's no one direction because you can really look up anything and you have access to what everybody is wearing in Tokyo or Germany or all these things. And everybody's on socials. So if you're looking at an influencer, if your feed happens to be global influencers, they're wearing anything and everything, right? So you're not necessarily going to just have your lens is much more open now. It's fair. And really people are not looking at the US for direction anymore. They're like, well, I live here, I'm doing this. And so, which I think is a good thing. But without the magazines there, people honestly have to really find their own way. And not everyone is equipped. I do think that sometimes I'm looking now at like what people are wearing or what people like. It's not giving put together. It's not giving thought out. It's just like almost a rebellious, like I can't even put my finger on it. You know, it's not a uniform like look. It's uniform, but it's not nice. Let's just say. I think that's interesting. And New York City, which used to be, I don't know, one of the style capitals, is feeling very DC. It's feeling very politically neutral color, no personality. So I don't know what's happening over in the rest of the world, but on the Western front, it's very boring. And Pantone's, interestingly enough, Pantone's 2025 color of the year is Mocha Mousse. Mocha Mousse is a light brown, which is basically a darker beige. And again, boring. And you look that up on socials. It's not complimentary at all. It's giving depressing. It's giving things are not looking good. But again, fashion follows the mood of the country. So here we are. Which is a nice segue into our health and mental wellness. And again, we are in a collective crisis and no one is coming to save us. So it is giving save yourself as best you can. Really, it's like if you have a trainer at the gym because you're not motivated or disciplined enough to go every day, do the same thing with your mental health. Get ahead of the crisis. If you feel like I'm not strong enough, I might start drinking wine every day because it's about to be dark at 4 o'clock or whatever is happening. Get ahead of, like, me personally, I joined this kind of expensive gym, and people, whenever I mention it, it's so funny. Whenever I mention it, people are like, oh, gym is expensive. And I was like, for me, it is saving me mental health bills. It's saving me diabetes medication. It's saving me buying a whole new wardrobe. It's saving me. I mean, there's a whole list. So for me, it's affordable. It's cheap at the end of the day because I get my 3 times a week dance class, which happy, endorphins, dopamine, all the things. It's also a built-in workspace. There are multiple locations. So I don't have to have a separate membership workspace or a Soho house or whatever. Social, I mean, not super social there, but there are people that I see consistently. So I'm getting my human interaction. So there's been a trend of these gym spaces also multitasking as workspace, social space, spa. Like, my gym is also my spa. So I don't spend money on going to like a bath house, which I used to spend a lot of like separate money on wellness stuff. And now it's all in one location. So I'm like, it's cheap. Actually, when I look at it, like, I'm getting my dance classes in, I'm getting my spa in, I'm getting my workspace in, and it's all in one spot. And it's consistent. And I do my yoga there every day. Like, it's amazing. And so a lot of these gyms are elevating to this like all-in-one experience. And some of them are even like really, really high end. I know Equinox is really high end, doing a lot. And there's so many. There's Lifetime, I think, is the name of one of them. That's also luxe. And so, and you can have your community there. There's actually today, there's like a magic show in the evening that I'm going to go to. So listen, that's also trending. But mental health in general, I see the trend is that while there are these mental health spaces that are, and when I say mental health spaces, I mean like these online, there's BetterHealth. There are a lot of these apps that you can experience a therapist virtually and easily. And so I think the trend is that's going to become more accessible. I'm not sure. It's just starting off, and I'm not sure how much people are using it, but I think it's something really to explore. I think that your mental health is going to be something really, really important. So with all the tech that's happening and content change and the chaos and having to keep up and really assess what's real, what's not real, because so much of the AI is, you're not sure, is like that a real person? Is that a real voice? Is that a real image? Am I actually here in the room right now, or is this projected from somewhere? And this is just beginning, but it's going to become the norm. And psychologically, it's taxing to have to constantly make the decision. And it's one of those things, almost like if you're able to assess something, it's easier to process it. When you're not able to, then it becomes more difficult. And then sometimes your mind will bypass it. And then that bypassing will lead you into dysregulation, and it'll lead you into even a state of delusion. If it's like, if I can't tell what's real anymore, then I'm just going to check out. So that's when you get into the mental decline, when you're just like, it's all overwhelming. So one way to mitigate this is to have an inner authority to be able to check in, like, does that feel right? Is that real? Is this person telling me the truth? And everything right now is smoke and mirrors, right? That's like, you don't know what to trust. You don't know who to trust. Like, our president was elected, but he's problematic. And, like, how did this happen? Right. So it's literally like we're in the upside down. And the only way for you to remain right side up is to develop this inner authority. I'm going to be talking about a little bit more about that in the next episode. So I wanted to share a story about change and the inevitability, and especially with technology and how it's really all coming for us in a way that we'll have to ultimately embrace. My lovely mom one year decided that she wanted a foreign exchange student to live with her. So she got this girl from Germany, and the girl was attending a local all-black high school, and her English was just standard. So meaning she didn't speak Ebonics. So she had a little difficult time in the school, and I ended up visiting for Christmas. So I met the girl. She's very lovely. And this was around the time that like AOL was just getting started. And so you could have dial-up internet. I had internet at work, but like as a regular person, not everybody had in their home like now. And so anyway, my mom had shared like, oh, the girl is always on the phone. And this was even like dial-up phones. There was no cell phone at the time, which is so crazy. Or maybe not everybody had a cell phone. But either way, even if you had a cell phone, you couldn't be making international calls for free, right? It was like $1 a minute or whatever. But somehow like the girl, she was really missing her friends and maybe didn't have a lot of friends or couldn't communicate in Ebonics or whatever. And so my mom was like, oh, she's always on the phone. So of course I'm a problem solver. And I was like, I got this. We're going to put AOL on the computer so she can email her friends whenever. And anyway, I started to put it on. The girl was like so happy. I was like, I'm saving the day. Proud. Literally, I finished setting it all up, and I think I added my credit card, like in case she bought something or whatever. Remember that back in the day? And I remember I finished, and my mom is a Cancer. If you know any Cancers, if you have any Cancers in your life, God bless you. They are the most resistant to change, probably out of all of it's like they holding on to the past. My mom, literally, she watched me put it on her computer to help the girl, and then was like filled with a moment of anxiety and panic and was like, take that internet off the computer. And I was like, I mean, it's going to be for the better. And then she started screaming. I took it off. The girl burst into tears. End of story. I was like, whatever. Fast forward. Obviously now my mom has internet. She has whatever the new form of this. She has the smartphone, all the things. Because where are we in the world? Like you can't be living without. And so I'm really just going to say this about AI. Like you can get upset. You can pretend, oh, I don't want to use this. I don't want to be involved. But it's literally, it's happening. So you can either be here now with it and find out about it and benefit from it, or you can break down, deny, and then happily be using it in 20 years behind everyone else. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Join me next time for more Radiant Genius and part 2, where we're going to get into predictions of 2025.
Thanks for listening. Sending soothing calm to your nervous system. Hit subscribe and join me on this feminine-led entrepreneurial journey. The Radiant Genius Podcast, where we discuss all things brilliant.